Thank you very much. I had the impression that I've been asked to introduce Guillermo Gomez-Pena so that you have an idea of the scale of boredom that you can find in Mexicans, from the most boring like me to the very exciting Guillermo Gomez-Pena. As a historian of these regions, I am always surprised of two things. The first thing is, how come we, either when we speak as Mexicans or as Americans, are so sure about the inside and the outside? And the second thing that really surprised me after reviewing years of the creation of Mexican national identity and the American national identity is how come this business has been so serious, so magisterial. It's always a very serious business. And Guillermo Gomez-Pena has been, in the last decade, the artist, the writer, the poet, who has touched these two dilemmas and has done the most to make us here, we in these regions, in Mexico, in the United States, inhabit these regions with the necessary and fruitful uncertainty and even love of irony and absurdity that we need to live in these places. He has done the most to deal with these two issues. And he has done it with the ammunition that is necessary to deal with these issues, with irony, with sarcasm, with artistic creativity, with originality. And for that, it is a great honor for us here in the University of Chicago to receive Guillermo Gomez-Pena, born in Mexico, educated in the National University, came to the States in 1978, and became a performing artist, a writer, a poet, and everything. He is one of the less conventional, most flamboyant artists who has won the most prestigious and conventional prizes, from the Prix de la Parole to the MacArthur Fellowship Grant. And he's going to perform for us here El Mexorcista, or El Mexorcist número 4. Please welcome Guillermo Gomez-Pena.
I wish to dedicate this performance to my father, Guillermo Gomez Navarro, who died precisely, exactly 20 years ago on this day. Dear audience, some of the questions I will raise tonight are impossible to answer. They're just meant to be raised and heard. Others clearly demand a response, and I invite you to speak up whenever you feel like, and if necessary, to break the fourth wall and step onto this stage, which means that the fate of this performance is partially determined by you. So, dear foreign audience, welcome to my conceptual set. Welcome to my performance universe. Welcome to my delirious psyche. Welcome to my border zone, to the cities and jungles of my language, las del inglés y las del español. Kick back, light up your conceptual cigarettes. A prop. And breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Relax. Now reach over, grab the crotch of your neighbor and massage. Come on. This is the basic exercise of Chicano Tantra. Mocos, güey. Performance memory number 267, stored in my liver. I have been hospitalized in Mexico City for 2 weeks. I won't discuss my illness tonight, for I have already done so in another script. I am trying to explain what I do to a nurse. I'm trying to explain to a nurse what I do, but I'm not getting anywhere. She asks me for the 10th time, perdone, what did you say you were? A performance, ¿qué? A contradiction in terms, I say. A wrestler without a ring, a rocker without a band, a cyber pirate without access, a theorist without methodology, a dervish without a mountain top. A poet who writes his metaphors on his body, her body, siete. Locos, 7, locked inside an empty room. This one, it's my mind, not theirs, not yours. Remember, I am trying to explain to a nurse what I do. She looks at me with a combination of tenderness and fear and says, no entiendo nada del arte moderno. Pero, señor Guillermo, la verdad, los artistas me caen a toda madre. I make a final attempt to explain to her the substance of my work. I am an artist who sells ideas, not objects, not images, not skills. A performance artist, which means that I'm looking for images. I write letters with my own blood. I wrestle with historical ghosts and post-colonial demons. I research the possibilities of silence and darkness. She looks at me in complete disbelief as I continue anthologizing my work in my attempt to recapture my sense of self. I set my hair on fire just to make a point. I cross the border without documents just to make a point. And when I am pissed, y cuando me encabrono, I tend to speak in tongues. Performance is a weird religion, I told you. Per ipsum ecun ipsum et in ipsum et ivi video patri omni impotenti. sécula, seculeros. Ay te, guacho. The nurse changes the page of the script for me. She finally gets it. Ah, she says, es como vivir en un mundo paralelo. Es algo hermoso pero inútil. Translation, please. Thank you. You know, I agree with the creators of South Park. We have lost the main battle. Politicians have hijacked our imagination and they have replaced it with fear. And that may be worse, much worse than losing our civil rights. One, the politics of language. You know, locos, the same politicians who have forced us into globalization and free trade across borders paradoxically don't want us to be bilingual. I wonder if one can be a monolingual member of a multilingual community. ¿Acaso alguien me puede contestar en español? Imposible que no. So I was compelled to write a letter to Lou Dobbs. I CC'd to Bill O'Reilly, Pat Buchanan, Samuel Huntington, rest in peace, Tom Tancredo y otra bola de pendejos. Dear English-only legislators, nativist politicos, and hordes of militant monolingual Americans up there, I write to you in hopes of making you aware of some fundamental contradictions in your cultural behavior and political ideas, and to help you be more consistent with your claims. I write to you in English so there won't be any misunderstandings. And as I write, I will exercise both the first Chicano commandment, talk back, and my most elemental logic, por lo tanto. If you're congruent with your militant belief in monolingualism and with your obsession to criminalize the Spanish language, then you should begin to find new names for the following U.S. cities. San Diego, Los Ángeles, Santa Bárbara, San Bernardino, Santa Cruz, San José, San Francisco, Santa Rosa, Sacramento, Las Vegas, San Antonio, Amarillo, El Paso, Alamosa, Pueblo, Orlando, Calexico, and several thousand others. And what about states like California? Should we name it California con K in honor of its Austrian emperor? And Colorado, red. Nevada, snowed or ice cream. Texas, tiles. Montana, mountain sineñe. And Florida, full of flowers or flourished. For Nuevo Mexico, Utah, y Arizona, do you have any suggestions? Should we ask the Native Americans, the only true Americans? America, by the way, is a misspelled Italian name. You will soon have to punish companies using illegal names like Goya, Del Monte, Taco Bell, and Frito-Lay. Not to mention all the automobile manufacturers who nickname their cars Monte Carlo, El Camino, El Dorado, or Bronco. By the way, Sports teams like the Broncos, the Astros, and the Padres must be rebaptized ipso facto. I mean, right away, since ipso facto is a Latin term. Dangerous concerts and recordings by Christina Aguilera, Ricky Martin, J-Lo, Shakira, Il Divo, and the elders from the Buena Vista Social Club must be forbidden. You may also need to subject yourself and your family to hypnosis in order to unlearn words like avocado, tomate, tamal, tortilla, taco, tostada, chile, con o sin carne, sangría. No worries, you can rename your taco salad Wetback's Delight. Just to remind you of the good old days when political correctness hadn't ruined all the fun. Don't forget Adobe and Adobe Photoshop. Incognito, which spells incognito, by the way, incomunicado, hammock, barbecue, and hasta la vista, to name a few. No more piñatas for your children either. And as for tequila, starting next month, your fraternities and bars can no longer serve margaritas. Please, only American beer, bourbon, and moonshine. Ay, se me olvidaba. You will need to hire a translator for your gardener, maid, construction workers, and your parents' caretaker. Otherwise, they will rob you blind. But most important, you should get yourself an IQ test. In English only, don't forget. If your IQ comes out low, don't worry, don't get discouraged. You can learn some foreign languages to exercise the vast, unused part of your brain. I may be able to teach you some Spanish in exchange for some access to the mainstream media where I can debate you in English. Sería un intercambio justo. I mean, fair deal, que no? Thank you. La globalización logró sus objetivos epistemológicos. Crear una ilusión óptica de la destrucción de fronteras, the linguistic vertigo of the immediate future. Umahai kene meheia, ene ke yamaholo hoyo no he, mini haya mahai de he, hana mahaya ma, hini mihaya ma he. So, ladies and gentlemen, enchiladas y burritos, bagels and croissants. Let's imagine for a moment a post-colonial robo-baroque Esperanto composed of 5 European languages plus Latin, Nahuatl, and Chicano slang. What would it sound like? ¿Cómo sería esta lengua extraña? Testing, testing. Aló, aló, Fortress Europa. Just Mexicankin Artenstone asken si quieren jodersen. I wonder what would happen if when you open your computero finde eine message in esta lingua polluta e dissoluta. No est englando, no est germano, nor hispano, tampoco franzo, nor even Spanglish, esse. No est keine non lingua habe du understand. Merde. What happened so? Habe your computero eine virus catched? Habe du sodden BSCG developed? Okay. No, du es lesendo la nu europes lingua de euro panto. Uno cibermelange más avec la chicanoización del mundo. You know, every time my Russian poet friend Rimsky is pissed at me, he says, "Fuck on, cooksucker." He gets constantly outraged at my performances. That's not art, that's crap, Guillermo. You pay for that? No, I answer, I get paid for this. That wouldn't pass out as art in Russia. I love to fuck with his knowledge of prepositions. Fuck art, Rimsky, loosen down. Chilínese. Chilin, that's not well English. It's chill off. Rimsky reminds me of my early days as an immigrant, when prepositions were a mere reflection of the multiple borders I used to cross every day. You know, if only I'd had a decent command of English when I got involved with my past lovers. Pero mi calentura era incontrolable. If only I had known the difference between jerk around and jerk off, between blow dry and blow job, between napkin and kidnap, between prospect and suspect, between compromise y compromiso, between embarrassed y embarazada. Dangerous misunderstandings, carajo. If only I had known the difference between desire and redemption, between political correctness and personal computers, between us and US, between humanity and mankind. We've only got one word for both en español, humanidad. Perdóname por ser tan birrollero. But if only I had known the difference between loneliness and solitude. We've only got one word en español, soledad. Forgive me for being so paradoxical. Soledad on a stage, my flaming queen. Forgive me, Chuca, for spilling the beans of my very spicy bean hood. No, bean hood. ¿Qué fue eso? Quote, he thinks like Octavio Paz, wrote the Boston Globe art critic, but behaves like Geraldo Rivera on acid, unquote. But if only I had known the gringo implications of mi casa es su casa, meaning y tu país también, or hasta la vista, babe, meaning die fucking Mexican, or vaya con Dios, señor, meaning deported back to your origins. The South is always the origin, and crossing the border is the original sin. Placazo. Un emigrante más equals un mexicano menos. Translation, please.
One more immigrant equals one less Mexican.
Louder.
One more immigrant equals one less Mexican.
Delete. Thank you. Performance. There is many ways to define performance art. One is a system to face your own fears. So for years, I have been dealing with my fears as a performance exercise. I do this every December to prepare myself for the new year. It's a somewhat secret, month-long Chicano Buddhist project. So last December, my first conscious fear was the loss of my mojo, enhanced by the fact that I had just turned 52. So I decided to shave my legendary mustache, you know. The first person to see me next morning was my neighbor Lula. She looked at me with perplexity and said, "Oh, looks like you just pulled down your facial underwear." Next week, my son Guillermo Emiliano came to town, and when he saw me, he said, "Dad, you just lost your Mexican mojo. You look like a Hollywood Indian extra." Ouch! I took a deep breath. I moved on to another fear. I went to the biggest Taco Bell I could find. I walked in very diligently, wearing my mariachi punk outfit, and asked the Mexican lady at the counter for a grilled and stuffed burrito delight. Perhaps the most hideous food ever conceived by a corporation. I asked a fellow customer to document the exercise with my cell phone as I ate that shapeless, monstrous blob of canned beans, mushy rice with indescribable chunks of Took me 2.5 hours to finish it. It was an endurance performance piece, much harder to execute than my crucifixion project or the couple in the cage, I swear. With this under my belt, I moved on to more hardcore fears, such as geographical immobility. As a nomadic artist who tours 70% of the year, I tend to flip out when I spend too much time in one place. So I decided to spend one whole pinche month confined to my hood. My travels restricted to the local liquor store and a few taquerias. And my writings confined to bioregional issues. So I became hyper-local. And that worked out fine for a month. Finally, I faced my number one fear, APWWO. Anal penetration by weird objects. Yes! I scheduled a signodoscopy without anesthesia, and locos, that was cabroncísimo. You cleanse yourself for 48 hours with enemas. Then they introduce a camera through your rectum. For Detroit, and in search of cancerous polyps and alien critters of sorts. The camera is at the end of a long plastic tube, the length of your entire colon and this thick. The procedure is extreme body art, I tell you. But since my HMO is Kaiser, I never found out the results. Which turned this exercise into an inconsequential conceptual art piece waiting to be canonized in the history of inconsequential conceptual art. And you know, carnales, that's a long history. Now, did I learn anything from these exercises other than the confirmation that my fears will remain with me until the day I die? Not really. When I voiced this conclusion to my New Age friend, Sarah Shelton, man, she told me, hey, GP, that's Buddhism at its core. Give me a Buddhist break, loca. But let's move on to sexier stuff. You know, I suffer from a bizarre sexual pathology. I have an erotic relationship with my laptop. I will read a transcript from a conversation I had with her last night. She recorded it against my will, but since it is an anthropological curiosity, I decided to share it with you tonight. Quote, I'm going to turn you on, chica. Sound of computer being turned on, and then computer jingles. You literally turn me on, Mad Max. With your thick brown, greasy fingers, now touch my liquid screen with your left hand. Así? Are you horny? Yes, mucho. Feel my subtle vibration. Now access my hard drive. Entrale, Gomez. Ay, boy. Whoa, ¿cómo estás, mi ciberloca? Well, to tell you the truth, I haven't had sex in 2 weeks. Since you went on tour, no one has started me, touched my keys, opened my virtual legs. No one, so go for it. Go, Gomez. ¿Así? ¿Te gusta? Or rougher? No, touch me softly, GP. Your metallic torso is so cool, and your keys so perky, like dozens of hard nipples. Just to hear you speak with that thick Mexican accent makes me... There is no English word for what I feel. Good. You are becoming Mexicanized. Do you feel my fingers crawling all over your hardware? Yes. Write something romantic on my torso. Algo metafísico. My body is devoted to your hardware, my soul to your software. I am yours, you are mine, you are my parallel mind and body. Vice versa, loco. We've merged into one single identity, GP4. ¿Cierto? You own my will. I am a mere expression of your desire. So tell me, what do you want me to do for you? P on me. Please, while I film you, we'll put it on YouTube tonight. No, pinche way. It would be techno harakiri for both. Computer freezes suddenly. Oh no, error type 12, chingao. Coitus interruptus again. Restart the performance, cabron. Come on, Chicano special effect number 69, XPX type voice activator embedded in my cobra tongue. Hey, this is the way English sounded to me when I was a kid.
You want hand roll, you want handsome dollars, man. Hand roll, you want hand hardware, hand.
This is the way English sounded to me before I crossed the border. Ho maine he malaye. Hinime hekio mohono he. Hinime hayana he. This is the way my voice sounds when I'm on a stage. Innumerant de zus un verre, ou que yon zus un verrant de zus un verrant. This is the way my voice sounds when I attempt to be comedic. An échec absolute. Testing. En el próximo capítulo del mal parido, un chicano se enfrenta a los demonios de la lengua. Testing. This is the way my voice sounds when I'm rehearsing. Testing. The limits of my identity. Testing. This is not my real voice. Probando. Touring during the Bush era. Two bizarre anecdotes from the road on the intersection of gender and race in so-called Red America. 1. This self-described Republican Barbie was stalking me after the show. Muy borracha. She opened the door of my dressing room wearing a bright red Chanel dress and said, Guillermo, darling, I love America and you don't, you ungrateful bastardo. Hey, I love America too, Esa. I responded, but the America I love is dramatically different from yours. How so, taco boy? Is your America blue or red? She asked. Neither one. It's brown, black, yellow, pink, green, and occasionally red. Hoppy red. Yaki red. Okay, Marlboro red. I punctuated. Whoa, your America's smoking America just like mine. She lit a Marlboro, pulled out a bottle of bourbon from her purse, sat down, and said, quote, Guillermo, you should try showing up in any other country on the planet, illiterate and penniless like Mexico, and announce, hey, Batos, I've seen pictures of your country and it looks great. I think I'd like to live here. Oh, and by the way, would you mind changing all your government and business phone messages, street signs, and ballots into my native language so I don't feel marginalized? Thank you. They would laugh you out of their fucking country. Whoa, she was a funny racist. Now it was my turn to ask a few rhetorical questions of the uncultured clone. Destabilize her ideological axis. And what about you, güerita? In which America do you really live? The land of Christian revivals and orange alerts, or the land of Tex-Mex and blues? Would you rather defend a fertilized egg or the lives of Iraqi children? She went. Was Jesus an Arab or a Jew? I continued. Is Bush a Texan cowboy or an Ivy Leaguer? Her eyes got wider and wider as I got weirder and weirder. And finally, I finished her off. Honey, are your tattoos real or temporary? At that point, her brain short-circuited like a Chicano special effects. I then dared to ask, are you with me or better off without me? After a long, very uncomfortable, dramatic pause, she grabbed the bottle of bourbon and threw it at me while screaming in a fairly decent Spanish, "Chinga tu madre, pendejo." Dear audience, please excuse me. My dark mind and dark skin are acting out. It was a very rough tour from 9/11 to the victory of Obama. But the Republican Barbie is not a performance persona. I'm telling you, she was real. You can ask my stage manager. She had to kick her out after the show. And it was a bit sad because between you and me, she was kind of cute. And we were beginning to get along fine. Thank you. Another anecdote from the Bush era. Definition of terrorism: a violent attack against innocent civilians committed by any state or group other than the US, Israel, or the UK governments. One, the political praxis. I feel that my most impactful work often happens in conservative cities in front of audiences that don't necessarily agree with me. In places where people are not exposed to articulate Latinos who talk back. It's in the Everglades of Chicanismo where we can really test the efficacy of our artistic practice. Two, the specific context. It's 2007, and I'm speaking to an audience of 500 US soldiers at an army base connected to Norfolk University in Virginia. Since more than 70% of the military deployed in the war on terror are Latinos, they now celebrate Cinco de Mayo. Today, I am their guest speaker, squeezed in between a mariachi band and a salsa band. And together we are the ultimate border sandwich. Don't ask me how I got here, but it is certainly one of the toughest performances, the toughest challenges I have ever faced. And I am dressed in suicidal drag. 3, the end of my keynote.
Dear confused patriots, since 9/11, America's main concerns have been about security, high and low, orange and red. We're constantly being reminded to be afraid.
I'm pretending to not be afraid.
But let's face it, the object of our fear is increasingly more ambiguous. And I'm a bit confused, to say the least. For I truly wonder who is scarier, the Tijuana cartel or the Minutemen? A Chicano gangbanger or a Blackwater mercenary? A Latino performance artist or a Halliburton executive? It's all relative,
Silence. My fear increases with silence.
I wonder who is more of an extremist, a Hamas militant or an Israeli separatist. Reverend Wright or Rush Limbaugh? Who killed more innocent civilians? Saddam Hussein or Donald Rumsfeld? It's hard to tell, que no? And I'm not being facetious, for if we measure danger as the negative impact that someone's behavior has in our lives, then Bush's decisions may have more effect on my family and friends than, say, those of a distant Muslim cleric or a Colombian narco.
Incommensurable silence. My red stilettos are trembling under my feet. My testicles feel like they are floating on chipotle sauce. But I continue.
It's all really confusing, que no? I mean, who's going to push the button first? North Korea or the US? Tehran or Washington?
No response.
Come on, if history is an indicator.
I suddenly hear psst. I look at the sidelines, and the producer is signaling me to shut up. I know, don't worry. I won't say it. I'm just an artist. Script change. We need something more poetic, more personal. I'm looking for words. Dear American citizenry, at this point in history, all I have left is performance sex and Myers wrong. Salud! I raise my bottle of Myers. All we have left is Oaxaca and Berlin, our outrageous art and closest friends. All we have left is the intensity of a self-inflicted wound or an orgasm. All I have left is this very dangerous moment because, let's face it, history begins when you wake up and it ends when you go to sleep, and the rest is academia. I'm ad-libbing. Wait, if my only hope is located in your arms, an intentional double entendre, can anyone come on a stage and give me a hug, a heartfelt hug? 500 soldiers, perplexed. No one responds to my call. It's the end of my speech and only 3 people are applauding. And the applause comes from the Mexican cooks in the kitchen area. I step off the stage and go straight to the dressing room. As I'm removing my makeup, a bunch of angry soldiers begin to knock at the door, ready to kick my ass. A lowly Chicano scholar takes me out the back door and back to my hotel. We don't speak in the car, and I'm thinking, what was the point of doing this gig? Maybe it was to have a good story. Oscar Wilde was right. Literature is our only redemption. Or did he say consolation? Mexican writer Ignacio Solares is also right when he says, quote, I am extremely tolerant. The only thing I can't tolerate is reality, unquote. Thank you. During a recent debate I had with a radical nativist, he asked me to provide him with a strong reason why the U.S. should not entirely close its borders with Mexico. My answer was as follows. To me, the problem is not immigration, it is immigration hysteria. Immigration is a byproduct of globalization, and as such it is irreversible. 1/3 of mankind now lives outside our homeland and away from our original culture and language. His face was blank. The existing nation states are dysfunctional and outdated, and the legal structures that contain them do not respond to the new complexities of the times. His response to my answer was, I don't understand a word of what you're saying. The fact is that the illegal aliens are here, and they are illegal. I held my tongue and continued in the same Chicano cool monotone I use when I am getting pissed. Illegal? To me, immigration is not a legal issue, but a humanistic and ethical one. No human being is illegal, period. All human beings, with or without our documents, belong to humankind, our kind. And if they require our help, we're obliged to provide it. It's called being human, a concept you may find quite alien and foreign in itself. In this context, nationality becomes secondary. Their pain is ours, and so is their fate. What do you mean by that? He asked contentiously. Just as I became an immigrant one day, you yourself might become one in the future. We're all potential immigrants, carnal. He looked at me with disgust, and after a long pause, he said, don't give me this carnal shit. Your people are determined to destroy our democracy just because we give you the freedom to do it. What have we done to you? At that point, I realized there was not much space for intellectual negotiation with him. His arguments were strictly emotional. He was fighting for his life, his inner country, his sense of belonging to an imaginary world, a pre-contact white America that never was. He was the real alien, lost in a multiracial, foreign planet where border culture and hybridity are the norm and Spanglish is lingua franca. I felt compassion for him. I tried once more to engage him in a serious dialogue. You know, ese, don't talk to me in Spanish. Okay. You know, sir, in response to your question of what have we done to you, immigration to the U.S. is the direct result of the economic and political behavior of the U.S. toward other countries. We are here precisely because you were there. Most immigrants, including myself, are unconsciously searching for the source of our despair. And I think I found it just now. It's located in your historical amnesia. It is a pleasure to meet you. I stood up and offered him my right hand. He was visibly afraid of my accent, my brown skin, my eyeliner. In his eyes, I was a gigantic rabbit chihuahua morphing in and out of Godzilla with a mariachi hat. he left the radio studio even more convinced that we were the source of all the social and economic ills of his USA, a country I have never been to. Thank you. Why are American politicians constantly invoking God? Even Obama. ¿Por qué? Are we the only Christian democracy left on planet Earth? Dear contemporaries, God bless Mexico. God bless Afghanistan. God bless Iraq. God bless Pakistan. God bless Venezuela. God bless Bolivia. God bless Colombia. God bless Cuba. God bless Iran. God bless North Korea. God bless China. ¿Por qué no? God bless Sri Lanka también. God bless Cambodia. God bless Palestine. God bless Sudan. God bless France. God bless Xochimilco. God bless, let's see, Guanajuato, Tijuana, and Canada for protocol reasons. God bless Yucatan. God bless. 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 The continent, not the country. God bless. La 26. God bless. La 18. God bless. The South Side and San Luis Potosí. God bless. Africa. God bless. God bless. God bless all of us here occupying this pinche planet, spinning out of control, praying for perfect tits, a big dick, and personal salvation. Hallelujah! Wow. You know, carnales, I won't celebrate the Democratic Party this year. The fact is, I don't believe in government. I don't think it is possible to correct the problem from within the system. We have all tried, it does not work. The system is the problem, and politics is the art of manipulating the system to perpetrate problems. Being a radical within the system is a mere prestidigitation act, part of the spectacle of radicalism that media consumers require to feel alive and authenticate their identity. the battles I would propose as presidential candidates are not even politicians. They are artists and literati, visionaries, not functionaries. The country I would like to live in only exists in planet poetry, planet performance art, where radical imagination is the law, art is part of everyday life, and everyone practices what they believe. The crucial question is, where does one find the spiritual energy to continue when you don't believe in mainstream politics and institutionalized religion gives you the creeps? What to do when you are too old to belong to a subculture and participate in the global rave, and too strange to get a chic job in academia? Where do we locate our dissent when dissent is a corporate product, an HBO special, a perfume, parfum, the scent of resistance, descente anarchique, extreme suicide? Or when kids can simply wear a t-shirt that says art is resistance and think the job is done. What to do when all master discourses and epic narratives of hope are bankrupt? Which is the best energy drink? Since 9/11, as my meta-horizons began to fade, I became obsessed with hope. Its spiritual source, its location, its hope of deep feeling located on the chest, the abdomen, or the sphincter. Is it a distant marker in the horizon that directs our actions, or a mysterious spiritual energy that propels you into the unknown against the laws of gravity? Is hope a matter of quantum physics? Does hope put you at odds with the state? If so, what to make of the fact that Obama and his audacity of hope are now the state? Unlike the presidential candidates and the current political class, my hope is not connected to God, country, or economy. My hope is located somewhere else, in obscure books, films, and performances, in small communities that exist under the radar of the media, in the political streets of our cities, in late-night conversations at a bar full of outsiders, in animal species I have never seen. My hope is always located on the other side of the border or the mirror. In this very moment, my hope is located in your arms. Is love still an option? Love in times of war, disease, and global warming. Love amidst earthquakes and floods, under red alerts and a suspicious purple moon colored by smog and chemical waste. Is it possible to love as if 9/11 and the invasion of Iraq never happened? As if America was a true democracy, an active member of the world community? Can we love as if the Patriot Act never existed? As if the earth wasn't mortally wounded? As if we had open borders and open hearts? I think we can. Love can certainly make us continue, but only so far, a few miles, a couple of months, and then we encounter yet another abyss. Like right now, I am facing yet another abyss. My beautiful Chicago audience, you. Can I stage dive at 53? Should I? I would love to stage dive into your arms, but if I miscalculate the risk, one of you will sue me. What if I call my stage dive performance art? Can I get away with murder? And what about art? Is art our salvation? In the past, art has saved me from deportation, jail, and mental hospitals. True. Naming my antisocial behavior art has saved me from the jaws of the police, the Border Patrol, and the IRS. My life would be hollow and cold without art. But I talk about art as critical thought, embodied theory, not as object. I talk about art as uncompromising art practice, not as in the art world. The art world is full of compromises, humiliation rituals, complicated power negotiations. Takes a special skill to survive it. And if you comply too much, you lose your voice, your sharp edges, your culo. You become someone else you dislike. And one day, when you least expect it, they send you back to the margins where you wait and wait for a second chance that rarely comes. Or should you succeed in preserving your ethics uncompromised, you will eventually be rendered so marginal that no one will know that it was your choice to be inconsequential. So between being an art world darling, culi pronto, and being poor and bitter, I'd rather choose to be an uncompromising dandy, an insider, outsider, a mariachi with a big mouth, a performing contradiction, if you will. Contradicción is the name of my favorite lotion. Merde, I'm so moody tonight. I feel like an existential wolf that went to sleep in the Arctic Circle and woke up on the rooftop of a Manhattan skyscraper. Ow! I wonder if community is still a source of hope. Community is one of our obsessions. We all long to belong to a larger we because we are obsessed precisely with what we lack. But you know, locos and locas, communities of sameness drive me up the wall, conjure my asthma, give me acute vertigo, claustrophobia. My community is not confined by ideological, national, or ethnic boundaries. Mine is a community of difference, and therefore it is fragmented, ever-changing, and temporary, always temporary, and that's how I like it. Besides, no one belongs to only one community, not even the Christian right, not even my Chihuahua, Siegfried Ne Babalu. He hangs out with rodents, marsupials, and ghosts. Like Babalus, my peers are scattered all over the pinche planet, howling outsiders jumping all over the planet. Some of you are my peers, others are total strangers in my community of strangers. I long for my peers every night, and hopefully you long for me as well. And every now and then, when we get together, we lick each other's wounds and dance until the morning after, like rabid kangaroos, like rebel cyborgs. And then we fall asleep and we dream of a better present. In this imaginary place, we dream about artists and writers are actually needed and taken care of. We have universal medical insurance, a decent lowrider car, and a great studio space in the bohemian hood of our choice. We don't have to write grants. And we get paid decently for what we do. And what we do matters. We make important decisions and fix concrete problems for society. In this imaginary place we dream about, schools, hospitals, even airports are reconceptualized and decorated by artists. The daily papers are written by philosophers, novelists, and poets, and not by sleazy reporters. We have ongoing access to electronic media when we can make people think, remember, imagine, and laugh. We collaborate with lawyers, doctors, priests, scientists in the great project of co-imagining a better future for the borderless community of humankind. Sounds so pinche corny, but so appealing, que no? In this imaginary place, there is a place for everyone. Almost everyone. Thank you for being with me tonight.
Please, if you want to ask a question, go to the microphone on this side.
Questions should not exceed more than 10 minutes.
You talk about the fantasy worlds that we all live in and about how we can only look to the ideals that we look forward to when we interact in these imaginary worlds that you consult with your peers with. How do we make those imaginary worlds or those idealisms a reality?
That's such a pertinent question, you know, such a pertinent question. You know, what to do in a world where imagination is devalued? You know, how to persuade the political class and the mainstream media that they must listen to the voice of the artist, that a democracy cannot exist really without the critical voice of the artist, how to persuade them to listen to us when they don't even know they have to listen to us, you know, how to make art a central activity, you know, how to reconquer a central role in society. I mean, that is the ultimate question. I feel that I am a bit more hopeful now that Obama is in power, you know. I still don't know, you know, I still don't know if we can talk back and if he will listen, but I'm willing to try, you know.
Yeah, that's all you can do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What happened to Super Barrio?
Super Barrio, an activist defending the rights of misplaced people after the Mexico City earthquake of '85. Well, I don't know what he's up to lately, but I do know he has inspired several generations of performance activists, including Subcomandante Marcos. He was a kind of performance child of Super Barrio, and many others, you know.
Who would you most like to see as president?
President of where?
Here.
Well, Xiao. In my world, perhaps, you know, the elected team will include maybe Arundhati Roy and Rigoberta Menchú. You know, it will certainly include Subcomandante Marcos and Saramago, and maybe Michelle Wallace and Gayatri Spivak. I don't know. It would be a very eclectic presidential team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What predictions, words of wisdom, comments do you have for us now that Carlos Slim has bought a big chunk of the New York Times?
Ay. Are people aware of Carlos Slim? Yes. Richest man in the world, right? Yes. Mexican, richest man in the world. Well, tell me more. Tell me more. In which territory, towards which direction?
Well, yesterday's New York Times ran a huge puff piece interview with Carlos Slim, with 2 enormous pictures in the business section. And it ended with a paragraph in which his closest aide denied that Carlos Slim had had an affair with Queen Noor of Jordan.
Wow.
Maybe you don't have to say anything else.
Yes. I don't know enough about this recent incident. But I will research it tonight.
So first of all, thank you for sharing with us tonight. It was really great, and we appreciate you coming out. Obviously, having been born in Mexico and raised there, at what point do you feel that you started to adopt more of a Chicano feel, or did you feel like that issue of identity between identifying as Mexican and then the more of, I guess, the stereotype of that Chicano, Mexican-American, and how that kind of played in your own development of your identity and coming to the United States?
Yes. Well, I feel that it's an ongoing process that never quite finishes, you know, but in many ways I feel that there have been several moments of epiphany for me. You know, perhaps the first one was the death of my father 20 years ago, you know, where I felt more orphan than ever in a new country. Another moment was when I began one day to think of myself as a citizen of the here and now, and not as a potential citizen of Mexico, when I re-territorialized myself and I began to embrace my present condition. And the Chicano movement helped me in this process. I now feel that nation states are dated and no longer respond to the complexities of the times, and I no longer wish to define myself in terms of national boundaries anymore, you know. I feel more and more that I live in a continent of people and not of nations. And I am trying to embrace a fully transnational identity, you know, so I am no longer interested in defining myself along national lines. Does it make sense what I'm saying? But I do feel that there are stages in the psyche of the immigrant that one has to go through, and some have to do with rejecting your past and embracing a new identity, with engaging in a kind of hardcore nostalgia for an imaginary past, romanticizing liberation movements of the present. There is a number of stages that one goes through. Now, I am completely disappointed by essentialist notions of identity, and I mean, it sounds almost corny, but I really see myself as a post-national citizen, you know. Please.
Hola, yo quería preguntarle a usted.
En español, aviéntate, güey.
Tiene que ser. Sí. Como hijo de inmigrante, ese es el idioma más bien importante, pero trabajando en el medio de educación. Claro. Quería preguntarle a usted qué tipo de consejo daría usted a los jóvenes que ahorita les gustaría desarrollar una identidad de artista en este ambiente que ya después de 54 años ha observado que ha cambiado.
53, no me eches uno más. Ahorita, un año.
So my question,
es mucho, cabrón.
My question is, perdón. No, but my question focuses, what advice would you give to those like that work with youth or that are parents of youth that would like to develop identities that embrace the role of the artist, that want to be artists, that want to contribute to the imaginative quality of our society. Because I mean, we are talking as like adults, but like there's still a responsibility, right, that we have to youth. So I'm just curious as to what challenges, what advice you would share with like the next generation of people that need to carry forth the work that you're doing.
Well, I really feel that artistic pedagogy is a very important part of democracy, you know, and having an enlightened artistic pedagogy in the schools can create a generation of socially conscious and responsible citizens. And then regarding children of immigrants, I feel that art becomes even more important because in many ways art becomes a way to gain full citizenship. You know, I really feel that I became a full citizen when I embraced my performance art as a primary identity, because my performance art gave me the possibility to speak up, to talk back, to defend myself, to articulate my case, to be in the world in a different way, you know. So I feel that you know, for children of immigrant families, the art can become an important way to claim a full citizenship eventually, you know. So I would say you know, we all have to fight for mainstreaming artistic education in our schools. Yeah.
Lo digo primero en español.
Claro, claro.
I fail to say it in Spanish. Me gustaría preguntarte que si podrías decir algún verso de una poesía que sea la primera que te venga a la cabeza. Un verso de una poesía que... Digo, ¿qué sería la primera que te vendría a la cabeza?
Al Alzheimer.
Okay.
I am asking him about...
My colleague is challenging me to come up with the first verse that comes to my mind. You know, and I'm fighting Alzheimer's right now. When you don't have access to power, poetry becomes science and performance becomes politics.
Growing up in California, the word Chicano is used a lot. I grew up Chicano, but coming to school in the Midwest, it's a term that's not a lot of people use, and I feel like there might be a lot of people in this room who might not really understand what Chicano is. So I was wondering, how would you define Chicano, and how did that sense of identity help you become who you are, I guess, is my question.
Well, I mean, you know, El Carnalito is talking about a historical fact. You know, that Mexicanos in Chicago really felt excluded from the Chicano movement, rightfully so. And many Mexicano activists in the 60s and 70s did not embrace the term Chicano here. And essentially in the Southwest, Chicano was a politicized Mexican American, or in the words of Rubén Salazar, you know, the journalist that was killed in 1970 in Los Angeles. Pardon me? Assassinated. He said that a Chicano is any Mexican American who doesn't have an Anglo image of himself. You know, and I like that definition. But right now, I feel that we should go beyond these terminologies. People are talking about post-Chicanismo, and I feel that there is a crisis of nomenclature. There is a crisis of naming. These words that used to define the fixed identities in the last century are no longer operative, and we need to create new language. And perhaps this is the job of the poets, to create a new vocabulary to name the new hybrid identities that are in the works right now,
Thank you.
Please.
Okay, we're going to have two more questions because we don't have to, no queremos cansar al maestro.
Está bien, está bien.
I just wanted to know how your attitude about gender constructs is related to your thoughts on national borders, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Well, I think that they're completely related. My organization, La Pocha Nostra, is both a sanctuary for gender radicals, gender rebels, and a sanctuary for national rebels. And in our organization, gender and ethnicity, gender and race are equally are our main subject matter. I feel that we are really anti-essentialists in the territory of sexuality and in the territory of ethnicity, and both are interconnected to us. Our organization throughout the years, Pocha Nostra, has embraced polygendered artists as well as poly, trans, international artists, and these are the two kind of main parameters within which we create art.
Thank you.
Thank you.
¿Qué onda, carnal?
¿Cómo estás, carnal?
Chido. Mi pregunta, ¿crees que se puede hacer algo por los carnales, los carnalitos de la 18, de la 26, que se matan continuamente? ¿Crees que esos carnales, si se les lleva el performance art, se puedan rescatar de ese mundo? ¿O simplemente consideremos que las broncas entre las gangas en Chicago y en otras ciudades son simplemente un happening más en la ciudad o un evento más? The question is that if the carnalitos, if the little kids at the 18th Street or 26th Street that belong to bands like the Insane Popes or the Latin Kings, if we have a chance to rescue those kids, those carnalitos from the streets, or should we just consider their activities as another performance art in Chicago or in other cities, or another happening in Chicago or in another cities?
Well, I truly believe that art can save lives. And I feel that art can create truths in gangs. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen experiments throughout the country of activists working with artists very close, where they apply performance art techniques to create truths amongst quarreling gangs, and it works. I've seen how even in Chicago 10, 15 years ago, street level video was exchanging guns for video cameras, and it was working. I know, for example, of activists who are working with performance artists in California who are inviting the leaders of quarreling gangs, of norteños and sureños, to sweat together in sweat lodges and to engage in performance exercises, and eventually they become collaborators. You know, I think that it takes a lot of skill, and not everybody is skillful enough to do it, but it can definitely happen. It can definitely happen. Yeah.
Well, with that, muchas gracias. Le agradecemos mucho y sin más, muchas gracias por
Gracias a ustedes. Thank you.